Hi everyone, I want to show you how to make a palazzo or straight trouser without using the slash and spread technique. Band on point, trouser length on point, fit on point. I have simplified this pattern and will be drafting it from scratch so that even if you're a beginner, you can get it right. You can check out the tutorial for the top in this video. I'll drop the link in the description box. You're welcome to Kemafric. My name is Kemi Omorugbe. Let's have some fun. You're drafting a palazzo trouser pattern quickly. You need your pattern paper. You need a very long ruler, but I think we'll be making do with this short one here. You need your paper scissors, and then to transfer to your fabric, you need your pattern scissors, and also your pins and all the necessary things you use in drafting your pattern. I'll be starting this by marking out a top margin of 4 to 5 inches. Okay, let's mark 5 inches. Just to be on the safer side. This is 5 inches top margin. That's because I will need space to create. I hope this is clear enough. We may have to make use of a marker. So before we go into further details, I'll be making use of the following measurements: the waist to hip measurement of 8 inches, crotch length 11 inches, waist to nail 20 inches, trouser length 43 inches, hip circumference 41 inches, although I may adjust this a little bit because it's a free trouser. Then thigh circumference, which I may or may not use, is 27 inches. Waist circumference of 28 inches. Okay, now just the way I've marked the top margin here, I'm going to mark 3 inches to the side of my pattern and mark it out. Let me mark out our measurement. Waist to hip circumference for this person is 8 inches, and the waist to crotch is 11 inches, although I want to add half an inch to this because it is a free trouser and I want it to be free along the crotch. So 11.5 inches. Waist to knee is 24. Waist to knee is 24 inches, and the full trouser length is 43 inches, but I want it extra long. So 43 inches, I may or may not increase that. Okay, so now let's mark out our lines. This is the hip line right here, and this is the crotch line. This right here is our knee line, and here we have our full trouser length. That's our hemline or ankle line. Now let's focus our attention on this part of the pattern. The first thing I'll be doing is to mark the hip circumference divided by 4. The hip circumference we are working with here is 41 inch, but then I'll be making use of 42 inches because I want ease along the hip. I don't want to have to slash and spread this pattern, so I'm making all my adjustments on the paper right away. So I'm working with 42 inches. Divided by 4, I have 10.5. So I'll mark that along my waistline and along the crotch line. Now I'm connecting the 2 points together to give me this. Is this any clearer? So that this may be clear, let us label our lines. This is the crotch line. This is the hip line. This is the waist line. And here I have the knee line, and then the hem. I'm having a little bit of challenge with my pens. Now on the waistline, I'm taking my measurement from here. I'm going to measure my waist circumference divided by 4. I am making use of a waist circumference of 28 inches. Divided by 4 is 7 inches. I'm not adding any darts to this trouser, so we have 7 inches. But because I plan on adding elastic to the side of this pattern, I will be adding extra 1 inch. We are still going to have a zipper at the back, so this is just to help hold the waist more tightly. So I marked 8 inches. We already have our waist circumference measured in here, as 10.5, so we don't need to touch here. Now let us go ahead to calculate our crotch extension. A method I use in estimating this is by dividing the hip circumference by 20 for the front pattern, and for the back pattern I divide it by 10, so it is basically 2 times the crotch extension for the front that I use for the back. Now I'm working with a waist circumference of 42 inches. By the time I divide it by 4, I have 2.1. So I'll move on here and measure about 218 or slightly less than that, and mark my crotch extension right here. So I'll take my ruler and create the crotch extension. I'll just come outward on the hip line by about 1/4 of an inch, so I can properly blend this into a curve. Now we are going to create a crease line. So I'll take the measurement along the crotch line like so and divide it by 2. This is 12.5, and I'll just divide it by 2 like so and mark the center. Now this measurement I just marked here, I'm going to take it and mark it on the knee line and on the hem of the trouser. Then we'll draw out a straight line. On the hem of the pattern. So I'm marking it at the hem of this pattern, and I'll connect all my dots together. This is basically the crease line for the trouser. Now back to the top of this pattern, we are going to create our curve at the side. Remember, this is where we have been working on so far. We're just going to now create the side of this pattern like so. Now because this is a straight trouser, I'm going to be making use of the measurement of this hip. I'm just going to go downward. So I won't be marking any measurement along the knee line, but then on the hem, I'm going to take 1 inch away from the measurement I have here. This is like almost 12.5, thereabout. Let's just say 12.5. So I'm dividing that measurement by 2. That's 6.25. So if I have 6.25 on this side, I'm going to take away 1 inch from that. Okay, I'm taking 1 inch away from the measurement I have along the crotch for this part. So I have 5.25 on both sides. But basically you are free to modify this pattern the way you want it. This is not the basic trouser block. I have a tutorial on the basic trouser block. Now I don't want to mark my knee line so that I can have like a straight continuity from the crotch line to the hem of this trouser. For that purpose, I have my long ruler here. I'm just going to mark from my crotch line downward, just this slight slant here. I initially considered just having it straight, but I changed my mind. So this is what we are working with. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier on, but we are going to modify the waistline of this pattern a little bit. Come downward at the center front by 1/2 inch and raise the side of the waistline by 1 inch just to get a very sweet curve along this part. Sweet curve. Okay, I like to retake my measurement just to be sure. The measurement I'm working with is 8 inches, so I'll take this measurement along the curve, 8 inches right here, and I'll blend it into my pattern. So this is our new waistline. Now for this particular trouser, I'm going to be having the zipper at the back. So I don't need to create a zipper fly or anything like that. Next, I'm going to be modifying this pattern for the back. So watch out for this pen color. We're using a blue pen for the back pattern, okay? Please watch carefully so that you understand this. So you see this line right here. I'm going to measure 1 inch along the crotch line. I'll be taking 1 inch towards myself, okay? 1 inch, that's from here to here, 1 inch, okay? While along the waist, I'll be taking 2 inches, 1, 2. I'm going to create a line to connect these two dots together so that we can have our back crotch line. Now this is just a way to help you estimate the slant of the back, the back slant. Now remember that the crotch extension we have here is 2.1 or 218 rather. I'm going to use the same thing to estimate a raise at the back. The back is always higher than the front, so I'm marking that 2.1. What this does is that the bigger your hip, the bigger the crotch extension, and also the bigger the back raise, because these things just correlate, and it is a way to help you estimate. Okay, you know our bodies are so different, but this will help, you know, modify it according to your hip circumference. Okay, so now I've marked the 218 inches right here, and I'll go ahead to take the waistline for the back. Remember that we raised the waistline of the front here. We're also going to be doing the same thing to the back so that they can blend together, but our measurement for the waist circumference at the front was 8 inches, right? So I'm going to draw a line and slant it towards this new waistline. You just need it to be half an inch higher than that initial waistline, right? So I'm going to draw this slant like this, and I will measure the new waist circumference. That's 8 inches right here. So this line crosses the waistline for the front, and it also crosses the hip line for the front. Now along the hip line for the front, I will retake the hip circumference. Okay, this is 10.5. Okay, so I'm going to be doing the same thing on this crotch line. Recall that this crotch line is for the back. Okay, so 10.5 here. I'm marking it here. Let me extend the hip line. So we have our 10.5 right here. Now remember that I told you that the crotch extension for the back will be the hip circumference divided by 10, which is 4.2, which is like 4 1/4, right? So I will measure 4 1/4 here, and here we have the crotch extension for the back. So let me redraw this line. And just like I did for the front, we are going to create the back crotch curve, and I'm coming outward by 1/4 of an inch and blending. I like to do this particular one this way. Okay, so we have this, and then I blend it into the rest. Okay, now I'm just going to add half an inch to the both sides of the knee line and the ankle line. So this is half an inch, and here I have half an inch. On my ankle line, half an inch, half an inch. Okay, now we're going to connect the rest of the back pattern. This is our hip curve, but it isn't that curvy. Okay, slightly curvy though. So this is the hip curve here. This is still our crotch line. And then I'll connect this. I'll just continue on my straight line, joining the dots I marked out together. Here I'll do the same thing to the inseam. Now here's our beautiful pattern. Before we stop working on this back pattern, there's something I want to show you, which I have actually been thinking of doing, because sometimes when you use this crotch line and this waistline, it comes out a little bit sharp along the back of the trouser. So now place your curve this way, just a slight curve with the more curvy side towards the side of your pattern. And I've actually marked this out with a pen. I don't know if you can see it. Then we are going to make this our straight back waistline slightly curvy. I'm still using the same measurement here, the same measurement here. I'm just placing my tape to mark out a slightly curvy back band like so. So this is what I have. I figured this will help the back sit more perfectly on the waistline than the straight one. Okay, so now let's work with this. I'll go ahead now to transfer the front pattern onto another paper. Now let's mark a band for our trouser, and I'm marking a 1.5 inch band. 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. Okay, you have to indicate the position of your band. This is the center front and this is the side for our band. Okay, so this is the part where you mark out your pocket and all of that if you're attaching a pocket, but for this I won't be doing that, so I may as well go ahead and cut out this pattern. Now I'll be marking out the band for the back, and I'm following the curvy line we created here. I am just going to mark the same 1.5 inch or inches. I'm going to mark 1.5 inch all the way. So I'll just try to recreate the original curve we have at the top right there. Okay, so I'll be cutting out this band, but once again it is important to label it center back, side back. Another thing I like to do on my trouser pattern, which may save you some little issues because of the nature of this slant right here for the front and the back, it is slightly different, you can see. So just measure the slant between the crotch line and the knee line. This is 12.5. Now take the same measurement for the back pattern. I have 12.25 here. That means there is a 0.25 difference in the distance between the crotch line and the nail line. I'm going to mark 0.25 on the back pattern just to remove that excess right here. So this way the crotch line for the front matches with that for the back, so that way you won't have any issue with your fitting when you put your notches on the nail line. So I have done my adjustment. I'm going to cut this part out. I have gone ahead to also extend this back pattern by 1 inch. I was just in doubt whether I wanted it longer or not. Okay, so let's go ahead now to cut out the band and cut out our back pattern. Then we'll move on to transferring it to fabric. Here I am transferring my pattern to fabric. While doing that, I added half an inch to the inseam and half an inch to the outer seam and also to the waistline. Then on the hem I added 2 inches, and here is my band. I also added half an inch seam allowance to all the sides of the band, but for the front band it is on fold at the center. Okay, now in the next video I'll be showing you how I put these pieces together to create this beautiful well fitted palazzo or straight trouser. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully I'll be seeing more of you in the next video. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and drop a comment. Let me know what you think or if you'll be trying this out. Thanks once again for watching. Bye.